Now this week we have kind of a combo packed week. The overall theme of the module is that of constructive feedback. And I've kind of paired that with layout sins in our textbook. And I'll kind of explain that line of thought. But the first thing I want to talk about is Chapter 4 in layout sins. And you can see an image on screen that anyone with any moderate sense of design is probably cringing over. This is actually something created by some undergraduate and master's students at the University of Georgia a few years ago when I was co-teaching a class. And we used this particular image to help talk about good design and bad design. And I use it often because there are so many wonderful things about this image and so many terrible things. So with respect to layout sins, I kind of want to draw your attention to Chapter 4, page 32, when you're looking at the text, where it gives you that nice broad overview of the 13 amateur layout errors or layout sins. Number 4 on the list is bulky borders and boxes. And as you can see, this particular image has more than one of those, which also gives you the feeling of cheated or missing margins, layout sin number 5. Now at the very top, layout sin number 1 talks about centering everything. And while the entire sign on screen isn't fully centered, the individual blocks of text are. There's even some color matching issues. If you look at the Friday, September 28th, it's a different shade of green than the green of the background. There's also, I believe, 3 different fonts at play here, which goes into layout sin number 3, too many fonts. I could keep going, but I'll stop there. In general, though, when we talk about layout sins, we can find them all around us. And this week we're looking for examples of layout sins all around us. But then, how do you give feedback to an individual and make it constructive? So for those of you who are also in 5350 this semester, you will recognize both a resource in form of a website and a table that you also saw in 5350 last week. But this week's discussion is different, so fear not, you aren't getting a complete repeat. But feedback is important, and in both 5320 and 5350, I stress the importance of feedback. You will be giving feedback to your peers in this class, so I try to give you some guidelines to help you with that aspect. So those are the 2 big things to think about in this week's discussion. With that said, let's take a look at this week's expectations. Use the on-screen navigation to access another section of this week's overview.
Cold paints the sky just after sunrise.